wrestlers and all that stuff that are willing to go toe-to-toe with somebody, and if they have to, kill on their behalf. And those kind of things are stuff that I'm seeing the military move away from into constant harping on other things that really disturb me. Because again, the military, I know what it takes to train these young people to go fight, and it is something we're losing left and right. And it's one that I worry about with what's going on now, the rules of engagement.
Oh,
I mean, I got to tell you, when I was over there, we were allowed to call in airstrikes. You couldn't have other people question that sort of thing. I mean, it was to win wars.
Okay, we got time to
Yeah,
move on.
Okay.
I am 1.5 generation American. My father and my grandmother waited 10 years to get a quota.
Sure.
My brother and his family, we served 100% in Vietnam. I spent 17 months on the ground
Sure.
that I volunteered for. I can tell you in Southeast Asia, not being able to control the borders doesn't work as a damn.
Oh, yeah.
So don't let the bastards wear you down on that,
Sure.
controlling our borders.
No, thanks. I appreciate it.
Okay, one more, that's it.
Okay.
Go
I
ahead.
think the way you ought to be able to sell it to the young people is point out the fact that Social Security was sold to my parents. I've paid into it. It's disappeared from me now. And on top of that, they want to implement this Myra thing, which we've got one failed retirement system, and now he wants to implement another one. I mean, just that right there ought to just point out that government doesn't work.
Sure.
You know, I was born during the Second World War. And so I went to school in the early 40s. And when we went to school on Monday morning, the boys wore blue pants, the girls wore blue skirts, white shirt, and something red on, because we were red, white, and blue Americans. And we learned all the things that you're supposed to learn to honor your country. And in 1950, when they started screwing around with this thing, I remember I was in elementary school. And that's when the school system changed. Because they allowed the government to come in and give them some money. And that's what does it every time. I now have a grandnephew who has looked at me like I have horns in my head for years now because I have stood up for my country. And the other day, you know how God comes through. I got a note from his mother, my niece, that said, "Did you know that my son is now a conservative?" Now this is a kid who's 20 years old, so you see it's working. We have to give them the example. We cannot allow this indoctrination of our country through Common Core and all the other things to happen. And we are the ones. He can represent us, but we're the ones who have to be with our boots on the ground and do the work. It's nobody else. And so at the end of this, when I ask for volunteers, your name's going to be on the list. Thank you.
Thank you all. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
You're coming. Now you know how old I was. Now I know